Welcome to the first in a series of 5 brief videos discussing how to write a good church history paper. Now, I have a vested interest in you writing a good paper because not only do I want you to get a good grade, I actually want to read good church history papers. And our first video is about choosing a topic. Because if you choose the topic correctly, you set yourself up for success. And if you choose your topic poorly, it can be a source of frustration. And the first piece of advice I'll give you in choosing a topic is try and find the right scope, right? If your topic is too broad, say Christianity in Persia, well, you'll research, you'll write everything you know about it, and you still won't write a proper church history paper. You'll be frustrated with the amount of work that you do. I'll be frustrated that I'm not reading something worthwhile. So you want to make sure it's not too broad. Secondly, you also want to make sure it's not too narrow. Because if your church history paper is too narrow, you run the risk of not having enough sources. So again, you'll research, and then at the end of the day, you'll find you don't have a whole lot to say. So let me give examples. Let's say a broad topic is Christianity in Persia. Okay, well, that covers almost 2,000 years, and it's a fascinating topic, but in a 10 to 13-ish page paper, that may be way too broad. On the flip side of it, a topic that might be too narrow is the role of women in 2nd century Ctesiphon. Yes, Ctesiphon's in Persia. It's a specific city, and you're talking about a specific subset within a specific city during a very specific time period. And if you're writing a doctoral dissertation, that might be a perfectly fine scope. But for your church history paper, that might be a little bit too narrow. Second, keep in mind that this is not a report. It's a research paper. In other words, you're not reporting to me all the information you discovered. You're making a claim and you're arguing for that claim. You need to be researching through secondary sources, primary sources, which we'll talk about in a later video, and using them as evidence to support a claim. I don't want just a laundry list of facts about a particular topic. Third thing I'm going to ask you to keep in mind is remember the course goals. This is a church history course, and I expect that your paper be within the scope of church history. I know we talk about things that are adjacent to other disciplines like missions or theology, but I don't want to read a theology paper and I don't want to read a missions paper. Those papers are fine for theology classes and missions classes, but remember the course goals. This is a church history course. Fourth piece of advice I'd give in choosing a topic is take extreme caution with personal interests. What do I mean by that? You're allowed to have passions in life. And I recognize in the CH500 course, none of you are here because you want to get your PhD in church history. That's fine. But what I don't want to see you do is try and turn Church History 500 into a course in your area of interest, necessarily. I hope that you are interested in what you're writing about. Let me give an example. I met a guy at a conference who was an apologist, or he styled himself as an apologist. Truthfully, I don't know who gives you that title, but he gave himself this title. And his area of specialty in apologetics was the virgin birth, something I affirm, I believe in. I question what it looks like to specialize in the virgin birth. Like, how do you prove that? But then he went to seminary. And in getting his MDiv, I noticed on Facebook, he's trying to turn every course he takes into a course on the virgin birth. And I tried to gently remind this fellow that you go to seminary to learn things you don't already know, to be stretched, to be challenged. Allow your church history course to teach you church history, and allow your theology course to teach you theology. You might be in Church History 500 because you have a passion for counseling, and Gordon Conwell says you need to take this course. I think church history is beneficial to counselors. I think church history is beneficial to Christian educators. But I recognize you might not be in this for the church history. Resist the temptation to turn this paper into a paper on counseling or a paper on Christian education. Now, there are ways to frame it. There are historical instances that are adjacent to counseling or adjacent to Christian education, and those are fine, but remember the course goals. This is a church history course. Fifth piece of advice I'll give is remember that this is not an opinion paper. Everyone's entitled to their opinion, and you don't have to defend an opinion. I don't like coffee. I wish I did. Everyone who drinks coffee looks like they're having a great time drinking it. And I've tried it, and I just don't like it. If someone were to ask me, why don't I like coffee? I don't know if I have a good answer. But does that mean I'll drink coffee? No, it's my opinion. I don't need to defend it, right? This is not an opinion paper. This is a research paper that has a claim and a thesis. You do have to defend it. You do have to marshal evidence in support of a claim. So here are some suggestions for choosing the right topic and the right scope. If you're lost or don't know where to start, choose a time period and a location. Say 4th century Anatolia, or 12th century France, or 17th century America. And that in and of itself is not a thesis, it's not a paper, but it's at least the start of a topic. Second, after you do some digging and reading into those areas, find a figure or an idea within that area that you can get excited about, that you can be interested in. In these videos, I'm going to gravitate to my own field of interest, Jonathan Edwards. So when I knew I wanted to do a dissertation on 18th century American religious history, one of the guys that popped up to me was Jonathan Edwards, and that kind of focused my research. I know other people that have done similar time periods and locations and have focused on other guys, George Whitefield or Gilbert Tennant and such. So within that time and location, try and find a figure or an idea that gets you excited. And as you read and research in the area, look for a thesis. Now we're going to talk about how to develop a thesis in a forthcoming video. But I appreciate your time in exploring, choosing a topic. Thank you.